Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending when you're watching this. It's patch day for Tekken 8, and it is a tiny patch. Lots of people have been upset with the balance patching, the update cycle of Tekken 8, and I also agree with some things that they're doing and disagree with other things they're doing. So hopefully I have some ideas to share on why they are updating the game the way they are. I think it's a very imperfect solution that they kind of threw themselves into. So I'll explain what I'm talking about in this order. First, there's some small game updates, and then there's the actual game balance updates. So talk about maintenance. They talk about how your replays will be deleted and things like that because they're changing how the characters work. Tekken shop stuff, cool. Tekken Fight Lounge stuff. Okay, there's some exclusive stuff. So beat the Revived Tekken King and beat Harada Tekken to get some avatars. Cool. They're changing how ranked match works in terms of matchmaking. So before, if you couldn't establish a connection with a found opponent, it would widen the search range. Now, if a match is not established with a found opponent, the search range doesn't widen. So I assume this only really matters for the +or-3 preferred setting. I don't know how it works with the +or-2 setting. Battle UI. So if you didn't notice in Tekken 8, it's actually kind of cool. The health bars can be covered up by what the characters are doing. They've created an option to prevent this. So it's like the older Tekkens where the health bars stay on top of everything. I wonder what they'll do for tournaments. I imagine they'll just use the default setting. Kind of neat there. All right, playable characters, and here's the balance stuff. Great, this is what we were looking for. So let's talk about the actual balance changes, and then I'll show you some visual aids on what the differences are. And then we'll talk some, not philosophy, we'll talk about like why is the patch cycle the way it is. So, minor balance adjustments, which they teased in 1.08, as outlined in the previous update announcement. Yeah. Heat burst. It was fixed so that certain inputs can no longer be performed after a KO. I have no idea what this patch could be. I doubt it matters a lot. Special style. Fix an issue in which tracking for some attacks would be removed in a certain situation. That's a funny bug. Again, probably doesn't affect most players who aren't using special style. And even if it was affecting you using special style, you're probably playing at a level where the tracking isn't a big deal anyways. So that's a really interesting issue. All right, Elisa. We've been waiting for Elisa changes forever. Elisa is extremely strong in this game and really easy to use as well. So let's look at what they did. Elisa down 4. Changed the damage from 15 to 12. This is kind of nice because her down 4 had a high extension that if the low hit, you could not duck. So the reducing the damage here brings that move into a line. It's not an amazing change, but it certainly helps when she's already doing tons of chip damage and regular damage. During destructive form forward 1+2, this is where she stabs you with both chainsaws. It's a mid. Change the chip damage on block from 10 to 6. Change the chip damage on block during heat from 15 to 10. Nice. She's been doing a ton of chip damage. I don't know if this is enough, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. Forward 2-1. This string is something I've complained about forever because it has insane tracking. It was ridiculously safe. She could kind of just throw it out, and she could just do the first hit, forward 2, and then go into chainsaw stance. So if you respect the second hit, she gets a free mix-up on you. Reduce the recovery time by 2 frames, so now it's -12 instead of -10. Nice. So we get a bigger punish, and because there's a bit more frames to work with, perhaps we can dissuade Elisa players from just throwing it out. -12 is kind of a slap on the wrist, but it definitely helps. Balance direction Dragonov. This one's going to be really popular. Adjustments were made to suppress the performance of some of Dragonov's overly powerful moves. During heat smash. The duration of the attack and the hitbox of the third attack have been adjusted, so it's less likely to hit opponents behind you. Nice. That was a really strange issue where you could sidewalk to Dragonov's back, try to punish him, and he could hit you with the shoulder charge. Dragonov down 2, his most famous low, change damage from 17 to 14. Not a huge deal, but when the character is already pumping out so much damage and pressure, the 3 damage can matter a lot, especially with how often Dragonov is down 2ing you, right? So I think this is a good change. Obviously, it's very, very minimal. Back 4-3. To make it easier to evade through sidestepping, the following performance adjustments were made. Tracking of the second attack has been reduced when the first attack misses. And the hitbox of the second attack has been reduced when the first attack misses. This is fantastic. This is what people have complained about for a while. Is Dragonov could do back 4-3. You could sidewalk the first hit, and the second hit will just clip you. And because it comes out so fast, unless you're looking to sidestep duck, it'll blow you up. And by sidestep ducking, you open yourself up to other things. So it changes the... It was very difficult to actually pull off good defensive Tekken against this. Now they've made it easier to defend against. This is fantastic. Sneak QCF4. The opponent's behavior and hit has been altered to not induce wall stun. So before, it was a wall splatting plus frame, advancing mid. This move was arguably the best move in the game. Now, it is still really good, as we'll see in the visual aids of what the patch looks like, but at least it doesn't wall splat anymore, so that's a little bit of a win. The situation they've created after, though, because it doesn't knock down anymore, is pretty ugly. So you'll see what I mean in a bit. Heihachi. Balance adjustments to address the issue of excessively high combo damage in the Warrior Instinct state. His once per game buff once he's gone into heat 3 times. Ultimate count would not increase when stage given. Okay, so there was a bug where he wouldn't get a stack if he triggered like a wall break or something. His one jab, the issue where the recovery time became longer than intended when countered by an opponent's power crush has been fixed. Okay, the bug fix. All right, and this one, his one back 2-2, it was a headbutt spike. He does a jab, a back 2, headbutt. It would spike the opponent into the ground, and he gets a attempted follow-up for free. Usually they, I think, go for like Omen Thunder God Fist. But they've given the ability to tech roll. So I think if the Heihachi misses their follow-up timing, the opponent can escape. So it makes it a bit harder for Heihachi to get a follow-up. Maybe it restricts what kind of follow-ups he can do. I think this is similar to the change to post-heat burst heat dashes, where they made it easier for the opponent to tech roll and get out of certain follow-ups. So cool nerf to insanely high combo damage. Nina nerf. Nope, not even a nerf. Wow, Nina got away scot-free. The issue where transition to throw occurred on an airborne hit has been corrected. So she has like a knee move, whether it's out of her 2 jab or from crouching, and it goes into a throw. It's not supposed to do that if it hits someone in the air, so I think they fixed that. Devil Jin Rage. This was a funny Rage Art issue. When Heihachi came out, sometimes Devil Jin's Rage Art would not stop the timer, so the opponent could just time you out while in the Rage Art animation. So great, some minimal fixes. We probably expected more. People are complaining, why no Yoshimitsu? Why not more nerfs for Dragonov? Why not Feng Wei? Why not Nina? We'll talk about that in a bit, but I want to show you what these changes actually look like. So this is from AppPlay. I got AppPlay's permission to share the patch note changes. So let's turn down the music real quick. Okay, so Elisa on the right side, forward 1+2, reduce chip damage. That's the move we're looking at. And this forward 2-1 now is -12, right? We talked about that. Pretty simple changes. If you actually look here, I think, nice. It shows the chip damage up here. It's really small, so you can't see it, but it says health 129, chip damage was 6. So it's total chip damage, not per hit, over the entire duration. Right, so she does this move. It's 6 chip damage total. All right, and then again, so this forward 2-1, -12, you get a bigger punish. Lorena gets her 2-2, 1+2. Nice. All right, QCF4, no longer wall splatting. This is the heat engage version. This is the non-heat engage version. So without the heat engage, it just leaves you in crouch. All right, so look at it hitting Reina here. She's just in crouch. Now, Dragonov's in crouch too and gets a mix-up. That's kind of what makes this nasty. But this is the beautiful part of this move. You can sidewalk the first hit, keep walking, and you'll dodge the second hit of Dragonov's back 4-3. This is such an important change. Such an important change. It makes it less of like a just do it move for Dragonov. He has to consider his options a little more carefully. This is the Heihachi change. 1 back 2 spike. Now you can tech roll after they've finished the spike animation. Wonderful. Thank you, AppPlay. Now, High Buff Gigas, please, also gave me permission to share their Dragonov kind of specifics here. So no knockdown +8 on hit. This is the new change. You can see this if you go into practice mode. Down 2, a bit less damage. And then this is what the tracking looked like before. So Lily, known to have the best sidestep in the game. Depends on the situation if you want to get technical, but her sidestep is really, really good. So there, the second hit will get clipped no matter which way you walk. Now with this fix, this isn't Lily exclusive. Every character can do this. So fantastic, fantastic change. One more change I want to show is Dangojin showed some potential Dragonov like setup situations, right? So if we look at this here, now that QCF4 leaves you in crouch, and he's in crouch, he can now play a mix-up game off of this. So this kind of exacerbates the issue of, like, strong 50-50s on hit. Now, Dragonov did get a wake-up situation when he knocked you down, but at least it was kind of far away, right? So he's still very, very good. This move is still very, very insane. So that leads to an interesting question, is why, if Bandai Namco knows that Dragonov is an issue, they know Yoshimitsu is possibly an issue, despite the propaganda going around. They know Nina's an issue. They know Feng Wei's an issue. Why are they so slow to patch these? Well, Let me pull up some gameplay while I talk about this, just so we can have something in the background. Why is this such a continuous issue? Well, I think there's a few conflicting issues here. One is a new Tekken came out, so they need to patch the game early, right? So I'll just write this down so you can keep up. New Tekken need lots of patches, right? The problem is they decided to run the Tekken World Tour. And in a professional setting, you want less patches. So the solution they came up with is they would patch the game a lot early on and then slow down. They've said this in the patch, I believe it was 1.03, 4, and 5, where they talked about, we're going to address key problems, we're going to buff characters who seem really weak, we're going to nerf characters that are too oppressive, and then we're going to improve defense. There's the famous defense patch where they made Heat Burst no longer kill, you could sidestep Heat Burst, and basically improving sidesteps overall throughout the game. After that patch, they said, we're not going to touch the game a bit, we want to let it sit and see what happens. Unfortunately, when they decided to let it sit, Dragonov arguably became stronger because of the defense patch. Nina's performance was really strong because her pokes and her string setups don't really suffer from the defensive changes. And in general, this is where we saw like kind of the staling of the metagame. We already knew Dragonov and Nina and Feng Wei were really good. Yoshimitsu is really good. If I don't name somebody, it's not because I'm biased. Okay, I'm just trying to go on the fly, all right? We already knew those characters are strong. They didn't get touched at all. What's the deal with that? Well, I think this is the issue. They set out initially with two very conflicting goals. In my opinion, if they set up the Tekken World Tour in such a way where they didn't have this big lead up to one giant tournament, they might have had more leeway to make patches, right? The worst thing for a pro player is to invest 3 months into one character, and then that character gets gutted, and then in the next tournaments, they're doomed, right? And Tekken isn't the kind of game where you can practically learn multiple characters at the top level, right? That's a very rare thing that Ni and Arslan have demonstrated, but not many players are able to do at all. So because of that conflict of interest, the patch note cycle slowed down. And why I mentioned that I think it'd be better if we had multiple maybe mini leagues or things like that is it would give the development team kind of the leeway to run a mini league 2 to 3 months, see what the meta looks like, put out a patch, run another mini league, and then maybe we could put together a giant competition at the end to see who was strongest in that league, right? It would reward people who invested heavily into a character early on, and then they wouldn't get punished in the same league performance, right? Acquiring points for the finals, if their character got heavily nerfed. Now, this is not a well thought out idea. I literally came up with it in bed before I came upstairs. So surely somebody can come up with a better system. But that was just my initial idea for how to allow the game to have many balance patches, which it needs when it's in such an early state, versus how to support a competitive esports scene where you don't want a very unstable game for the livelihoods of the players. So they kind of tied their hands and put themselves in a position where there was no good answer, right? There was no way they could come up with a good answer. Now, if you think this is me defending them, I probably can't convince you otherwise. I think they should have come up with a better solution initially, especially considering the format of this year's Tekken World Tour is a bit dicey, right? There is the whole, if you like qualify through the main leaderboard and then lose, there's a loser's day, right? Like you're not completely out of the tournament. And those who qualify through the LCQ or I believe the regional leaderboards start in losers. The details, someone can refresh me on in the comments. But the idea that kind of some people start in losers feels a bit punishing, even though their idea was to reward people who had traveled more. So tons of issues, I think, with the esports coordination, and that ultimately is leading to the frustration of the wider player base, where I think people are craving a lot of patches, a lot of updates, when for them there are such clear problems in their face. The Dragonov 50/50s, even the non-S tier characters, the Victors, the Lydias, the Eddies. I've talked on Twitter how I think the S tiers are the biggest like egregious issues. But clearly there are people at many levels who are feeling the pain of dealing with mix-ups after mix-up after mix-ups. So this is my assessment of why they're in this position where we're not getting updates. People are getting frustrated. When we do get updates, it's just some kind of Tekken shop microtransaction thing, or the balance changes are so minimal. It's because they don't want to disrupt the tour. But it's a new Tekken. We need a lot of patches to arrive at a better product. So, shorter video today. Just wanted to get you through the update and give you my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think. Would it have been better with either a no Tekken World Tour at all or a smaller segmented Tekken World Tour? I think whatever the case, the development team needed the leeway to be able to put out a lot of patches. And because they're not able to do that, everybody's getting frustrated. Even pros are starting to get frustrated at the state of the game. But they're in a weird situation too, because you cannot overpatch a game and expect a very competitive result. It would be very entertaining, but it would be really hard for competitive stability if you had constant changes, especially in a game like Tekken where there's so much depth. That's all I have for you today. Thanks to SpeedKicks for the impromptu content. If you happen to be watching this video on release, check out his stream playing Dragonov, kind of showing how these nerfs are kind of a slap on the wrist. Catching the next video. Appreciate the support. Peace.